All right, guys, so let's talk about mistakes men make and how you can correct the course of your life. As men, we make many mistakes. Some of them are really colossal and can affect us uh, negatively for years to come. And I'm going to share one of those mistakes that I made today here on Resilient Man channel. I want to share this with you because I want to share this colossal mistake that I made in my life and how I corrected it and came out the other side much better, much stronger, much more resilient. I've made many mistakes and just like you watching this, but that is okay. And I want this message to be one of encouragement to you men watching who, once I share the story I'm about to share, some of you are really going to relate to it. Some of you may even be going through it yourselves because this is a mistake that a lot of men make. And that's okay. That's okay. You can correct course. That is the point of this message, that you can correct course, and that's what we're going to discuss. So welcome back to Resilient Man channel. Please like and subscribe to the channel and comment your thoughts and share the channel with your other brethren out there who would enjoy men's content as well. So my story. I was married to my kid's mom for 8 years, and then we divorced. And I was divorced and single for about 6 years, and then I met and eventually married the woman who would become my second wife, which is the colossal mistake that I'm going to share with you today and how I corrected that course. So I met, we dated for about 2 years. Things were wonderful. And I literally thought to myself, gosh, this woman is so fantastic. And if I ever were to remarry again, this is it. This is the woman. And some of you guys are in that situation, and you may be thinking about your woman that way, or maybe you have been in that situation and you realize it wasn't quite what you thought it was. And so that could be the mistake that you are making as well. So this is one big mistake that I made, but I'm going to divide this up into part 1 and part 2 because that will make more sense. And I think you guys will relate to this so much more. So part 1 of my colossal mistake that cost me heavily. Number 1 was I believed in traditional love. Big mistake. Now, I don't mean to sound cynical. I think a lot of men want the Disney story as well. The fairy tale love story, the Disney story, the happily ever after. I think maybe so more than some women. Some men want it even more. But this is a mistake that a lot of men make. And what I mean by that is specifically in today's culture, at least the past 10 to 15 years, love is transactional many times in today's society and culture. And especially dealing with a lot of modern women. I don't say that to be cynical or negative. I simply say that because that's a fact. I mean, we see it so much on social media with the modern woman and what they're after and what they're doing. And so I think a lot of us men do what I did. And that was, I wanted to believe the representative that she portrayed herself to be, and I think a lot of men have made this mistake. They believe that their woman is the exception. She's all that, and she's the exception, and she is wonderful. The mistake you may be making is you are only seeing the representative of that person. You're not actually seeing the real her. And I'm about to share my story of what came out as the real her. And, guys, things were really good. Things were really good. We dated for 2 years before we got married, and we got engaged, and that's when I started to see some red flags and some cracks started to show in our relationship. And this was just a few months before our wedding. And I ignored them. I made the mistake of ignoring the red flags, ignoring things where she was starting to actually show herself. And I paid a heavy price for ignoring these signs and these red flags. Some of you men can relate to that. And I would ask, are you ignoring red flags with your woman? Are you making that same mistake? Something to consider. So we dated for 2 years and, led up to getting married. And that was the part one of my huge mistake. Having the blinders on by choice and believing what I wanted to believe and seeing what I wanted to see. So now we go into part two, when we actually had our wedding and got married. So we have the wedding, we get married, and literally all hell broke loose. I mean, she completely unraveled mentally and emotionally. It was like a Jekyll and Hyde type of thing. The first month of our marriage was bad. It was real bad. Quite frankly, the huge mistake I should have made was I should have annulled the marriage the first month. And I didn't do it because I felt I couldn't change course and end the relationship and end the marriage because of the mistake that a lot of us men make. Well, I've got all this time invested, and most of the time she's a good woman. Most of the time, things are wonderful. These are the mistakes that we made. This is the mistake that I made. And it cost me heavily because, number one, it was stupid. And number two, I ended up being in a marriage. I mean, total, we were married 7 years, but 6 years together, married, most of which, probably 65% of the time, was bad. I mean, that's how bad it was. The first year was horrendous. And we trudged along for the next 6 years, like a lot of you men are doing or have done. And, it was just a colossal mistake. I should have annulled the marriage the first month and ended it. Part of the reason was why I didn't was the time invested. Our kids, she had 2 kids, I had 2 kids. We had combined homes. She was the only woman my children had ever met. My children had never met any of the women that I dated. She was the only one. And so I felt there was so much investment there. But the reality of the situation was, this was not, the representative was not the reality, I should say. And so I should have ended it and I should have moved on. Some of you men watching this are in a similar situation, and I would encourage you to not make the same mistake. So let's talk about how I corrected my life and got my life back on course. So we trudged along in our marriage for another 6 years. It was bad. Most of the time, I was miserable. She was miserable. Like a lot of you men watching, it was just a terrible situation. And till finally she walked in one day and said, "I'm leaving." I'm moving out this weekend. I don't want a divorce. I think we should separate and I'll get my own place and we'll work on our marriage and see if we can work things out and come back together. And which I told her was a huge mistake and was going to cause significantly more problems for us, especially financially. But that's what happened. And so, long story short, we tried to reconcile over the next probably 6 months or so, and even more things transpired. And then there was one thing that she did that was just the final straw, and I said enough is enough. Enough is enough. And this is why I'm sharing this with you today, because some of you men, maybe you're not quite there yet, or you're almost there, or you are there, where you've reached your final straw. You've reached the end and you have decided, enough. I'm going to correct this mistake, even if it's painful to do so. And that is exactly what I did. I said, you know what? We're getting divorced. And I was totally focused on removing her from my life and taking back my life. I had made a colossal mistake. And guys, listen, I had no one to blame but myself. This video is not about blaming her. That is not the intent. I have no one to blame but myself. So, and I would encourage you with your mistakes, take ownership, take accountability, then change what needs to be changed. But you know, that takes a strength and a resilience. And you have that strength. You have that resilience. You just got to decide to do it. You have to decide, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of being miserable. And yeah, I made a mistake, but I'm not going to let guilt or family or any other BS keep me from correcting what can be correct. You know, that's the point, guys. If you are in a similar situation, you can correct it. You can correct your mistake. You can correct the course of your life and start to craft the life that you really want, you know? But it's going to take ownership and it's going to take you taking accountability. The other thing I would share is focusing on you while you were correcting your mistake, okay? In my own situation, I stayed single the entire time I was separated to keep more trouble out of my life. I was not going to bring another woman into my life and add another and compound the mistakes on top of the other mistakes. Focus on yourself. Focus on being the best you. Focus on processing and healing. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to process the terrible situation that I'd been through, the hell I'd been through, quite frankly. And I wanted to heal. I wanted to look at what I did wrong, what I could have done better. How could I be a better man? How can I come out of this better and not bitter? That is what I was focused on. And being a healthy, strong, resilient man to where maybe one day I would meet a quality woman again who is looking for a quality man like me, like you. That's what you want to do. And I will share with you the positive, the wonderful end of my story is I was able to I filed for divorce. I divorced her, and I was able to walk away completely scot-free. So it ended very well. So again, you know, everything I went through was my fault. I take full ownership, full responsibility, full accountability for that. You should as well, for the mistake or mistakes that you have made. But that's fine. You don't live there, you don't dwell on it. The only thing I would ask you again is, if you are in a similar situation with a woman, are you ignoring red flags with your woman? You need to answer that for your own self, and then take ownership of your mistakes, change what needs to be changed, and get excited, because you can change the course of events, you know, and life can turn out really well. I mean, my life is fantastic now, and I'm in such a wonderful place. That's why I started Resilient Man Channel. I want to help other men like you watching this who are going through similar circumstances. You've made terrible mistakes. You've made bad decisions. You've been through terrible experiences, and you need some support. You need some encouragement, and you need to know just how strong and resilient you really are. You are. So guys, let me know your thoughts. Comment your thoughts down below. Stay resilient. Stay resilient. And check out the other content here on Resilient Man Channel. It's just for us men. It's for us men to encourage us, to be a community, to help each other, to know you're not alone with what you're going through. Like and subscribe to the channel. Share it with other men that would enjoy this content. And guys, focus on you, on being the best version of yourself, and know your worth. Protect your peace.